wonder what happens when you flush, where it goes? Well, my name's Mike and this is my job. Come with me and let's go see. Great, you made it. That first flush could be a real doozy. Right now, I'm in Interceptor 1 and I'm heading down to the wastewater treatment plant. Did you know that Cranberry Township has over 175 miles of interceptor and trunk lines? These lines connect your homes and businesses to the wastewater treatment plant. Hey buddy, if I were you, I'd be doing the backstroke. Whoa, I'm gonna need a bigger boat. Hang on, enjoy the ride, we're headed for the treatment plant. Woo! I finally made it. What a ride. Welcome to the Brush Creek Treatment Plant. Hello, my name's Mike. We're here with Mike Irvin. He's the operator at the wastewater treatment plant that actually operates and maintains the mechanical bar screen. The bar screen is designed to remove large debris out of the wastewater channel before it enters the pump station. That way we're not going to clog up the pumps. So Mike, how often do you empty this hopper out?
Once a day.
Once a day? Have you found anything interesting over the years that you've actually worked on this piece of equipment?
Yeah, we find money, toys, jewelry in the bags, stuff. And there's probably some money in there now. And look at it, there's a quarter.
That's a keeper for sure.
Yeah.
Once wastewater leaves the main pump station, it pumps up to the primary clarifiers. Before we actually treat the water through the primary clarifiers, we want to take out as much as grit as possible. Golf balls, money, change, little G.I. Joe toys, and we want to remove that because it really is hard on equipment. So next process we're going to look at is our grit removal process. So our grit chambers are designed to create a centrifugal force. So in this tank here, there's a paddle that actually spins the wastewater around, and centrifugal force throws the grit to the back of the wall, and the wall is actually cone-shaped to the bottom. We concentrate the grit, and then we will pump it out through a grit pump, and then wash the grit to remove any organic matter to try to reduce the odors, and return that organic matter back to the treatment train. Wastewater is about 98% water and 2% solids. We remove most of those solids to the bar screen and our grit removal system. Our next process is called primary clarification. Here we slow the velocity of water down. Any heavy inorganic material and some organic materials sink to the bottom. Any light materials such as fats, oils, and greases will come to the top. On the top of the surface of this water, there's a lot of brown and tan material. Most of that is fats, oils, and greases. Our operator here is skimming the grease off and sending that on to its next process facility in solids handling. We receive about 900 pounds of oil and grease each and every day to the wastewater treatment plant. To put that in perspective, I weigh about 180 pounds. So picture 5 grease balls the size of me entering the plant each and every day. Oil and grease is very bad for our system. It clogs our pumps and it causes issues with our biological systems. So we work really hard to try to remove as much oil and grease through our system, and we do that through a pre-treatment program. We actually have a department that goes out to the businesses and to the public and educates and trains them how to remove grease and oils effectively so it doesn't cause us problems in the treatment system. As the water velocity slowed down, the heavy solids settle to the bottom of the tank, and there's a series of flight and collectors that actually scrape the solids to the back of the tank. And then there's another series of scrapers that will concentrate those solids into one point, and from there we will pump those solids off, and from that point we classify them as primary solids. Those solids will be sent to our digesters for further treatment. So we treat wastewater 3 basic ways: physically, chemically, and biologically. In our aeration basins, we grow billions and billions of bacterial cells. And the bacteria, their job is to take the waste coming from the primary clarifiers and break that down to simple forms such as carbon dioxide, water, and more bacterial cells. They get the food from our primary clarifier tanks. What we do is we provide them air or oxygen in the aeration basins, and their job is to reduce the pollutants to more simple forms. As part of the preventative maintenance that our plant staff actually performs, we will take tanks out of service, enter the tank, physically inspect all the piping, clean the aeration diffuser heads, and then we'll fill the tank back up and we actually swap tanks, move tank 2 into tank 3, inspect that tank and clean it, and we perform those tasks on a yearly basis for sound preventive maintenance practices. Okay, we're here at the secondary clarifiers with one of our operators, Drake, who's actually inspecting one of the sweep mechanisms on our secondary clarifiers. Secondary clarifiers function just like primary clarifiers. We slow the velocity of the water down, allow the heavy materials settle to the bottom of the tank. In this case, secondary clarifiers, the heavy materials is actually the biological bacteria populations that we grew in our aeration basins. We'll settle these out of the tank, the clear water will come to the surface to go over the weir to the next treatment process. The water leaves the secondary clarifiers and enters the sand filter building. Any small particles that are left in the water, we actually will filter out or strain out of the water and produce a nice clear effluent that's discharged to the receiving stream. As part of our treatment process, we're required to remove harmful bacteria. We do that by disinfecting the water in our chlorine contact tank. Here we add liquid chlorine bleach, just like a swimming pool, to disinfect the water before it goes to Brush Creek. Sometimes when we do plant tours, people often ask, Mike, why doesn't the water smell like chlorine like a swimming pool actually does? And the reason for that is that we actually have to remove any residual chlorine before it goes to Brush Creek. We do that in our re-aeration tank. We actually add a chemical called sodium bisulfite that neutralizes the chlorine, and we also add a little bit of oxygen. That way we can keep the macroinvertebrates and fish in the water happy, happy, happy. Just prior to the water being discharged through the wastewater treatment plant, we are required to actually sample the water, and we'll take a portion of that water back to the laboratory for analysis. We treat approximately 3.2 million gallons a day. We also take a portion of our water and send it to the golf course for irrigation purposes. So we're at the outfall of the wastewater treatment plant. Once the water leaves the treatment plant, it meets all EPA and DEP regulations, and it's clean enough and ready for its next downstream user. We get a couple of soft-shelled turtles that like hanging out on that log. You always find a snake laying on this rock. So if you come more towards lunchtime, you got a better chance of seeing those. I'd like to talk a little bit about our solids handling processes. We take solids from the primary clarifiers and settle solids from the secondary clarifiers. We co-mingle them and blend them together. We actually pump them into those white tanks, which are called our digester tanks. And in the digesters, we have a special kind of bacteria who actually eat the solid material, break it down, and reduce it to non-volatile material. And that material will then dewater and sent to a landfill. Right now I'm here with Frank, who's going to tell us a little bit about the belt filter press operation.
This is the last stage of the biosolids process. After the sludge comes out of the digesters, it goes in that blue tank right behind me. It's stored in there until we go to dewater it. What dewatering is, the consistency of the sludge is that of chocolate milk. We mix a polymer with it that actually binds the solids together, the waters separate, creates a cottage cheese consistency. That falls on top of a mesh belt, and it goes through a series of rollers, and it squeezes the water out of that sludge, and a dry cake substance comes out the back of the machine, and they take it to the landfill from there.
Forms a cake, that's pretty cool. What kind of icing do you put on your cake? Vanilla or chocolate? We're in the lab. I'm with Larissa. The purpose of the lab is to ensure that the water meets all EPA and DEP regulations. So Larissa, tell us a little about what you're doing right now.
I'm looking at the biology in the basins. They're very important to how the treatment plant runs. We want to make sure all the bacteria that are in the basins are happy and living and alive so that they can help us treat the water that's going out of the plant. These brown particles here are called the floc, and that is what we want our bacteria to form. We want them to compact together to form this nice, tight, light brown, amber-colored floc particle that is then heavy, and it will settle out to separate our clean water from the sludge that we're going to treat in the next process.
Right now, I'm looking at two of our computer control systems. The system is actually called SCADA, Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition. And what this computer program does, it allows the operators to monitor and adjust equipment to meet our process goal needs. So that operators have the ability to click on screens and they can look at dissolved oxygen trends, turn on pumps, turn off pumps, whatever it takes to keep the process running safe and smoothly.
712, the mic.
712, go ahead.
Like that crazy drink has lost an interceptor number 3 again. Can you go help him out?
10-4, isn't that just ducky? Well, it looks like I gotta get back to work. I just want to thank everyone for coming along on the Brush Creek Wastewater Treatment Plant Dirty Jobs Tour. And remember, everybody has an important role in protecting the human health and the environment. Hang on, Drake, I'm coming.